What's going on, guys? Drop Dusky here. This is going to be the quick and dirty guide for the Seismic Slam Leap Quake build for Barbarian for patch 2.5.0, which will be season 10. As you can see in the background, I'm doing an 85 here. I have 1600 Paragons, but I will say in optimal conditions, this build can push very high. In non-optimal conditions, it is very, very squishy. So let's jump over to the gear. If we want to take a look at what we're wearing and how this build works, let's first go over the abilities so we can talk about Seismic Slam and the changes that are coming to that with this new patch. Now, Seismic Slam Rumble is now a Fury spender, right? So it dumps all your Fury, enabling you to reset the cooldown on Leap, and make this build work without that pause that you used to have with Seismic Slam. So in the past with Seismic Slam, you would have to expel 2 or 3 of them in order to reset the cooldown for Leap, which left you vulnerable. This one, it's now acts just like Boulder Toss did for Ancient Spear. So you leap, 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 you rumble, and then you can start leaping again. So with that change, we can use this ability, and what that does is expend all the Fury and does, damage based on the amount of Fury that you have. 15% weapon damage for every point of Fury expended as physical over 2 seconds. This is not your primary damage output, but it is, a little bit of damage that you're going to be doing during the runs. To the other abilities, we're using Earthquake, Molten Fury. I use Molten Fury because it's the highest damage output, but you can use other alternatives dependent on how good of an amulet you get. Say you get a Primal Ancient Hellfire amulet and you can't roll fire, but it can be used as like physical or something else. You can switch those Earthquake abilities, but this is by far the best one that you can go with. I would say that Primal Ancient option is the only time you would change that variation. Then there's Battle Rage Bloodshed, which is standard for pretty much all Barb builds. Leap, Death from Above. Death from Above enables you to stun enemies as you're leaping. So without diminishing returns, you can stun enemies until they're immune for a few seconds, which using Ancient Parthenons helps with survivability. Threatening Shout Falter, which just increases damage to everything within 25 yards and also creates an avalanche. And Wrath of the Berserker Insanity. There is another variation in this build that uses Warcry Impunity, right? Instead of Wrath of the Berserker, and it's purely focused on earthquake damage. It doesn't do as much damage, and it's still a squishy build, so if you're gonna go ham, you know what I mean? Run the Wrath of Berserker build. This does make you a little more tanky when you're in Wrath, and your damage output is through the roof when the convention rotation hits fire. So for passive skills, I have Ruthless, Nerves of Steel, because as I said, this is super squishy in non-optimal settings. Earthen Might to gain Fury when Avalanche or Earthquake is triggered, and Boon of Okathos to get as many Wrath of Berserker rotations as you can during the build. If you do not have a Hellfire Amulet, I would take Rampage probably over Ruthless. That's debatable. Ruthless or Rampage. Ruthless is really, really helpful for not only on Rift Guardians, but any elite packs or anything like that. But Rampage stacks if you end up getting a map with little spiders or other things like that. Rampage is going to stack up and be a very substantial damage increase while you can keep those stacks up. So you can test those things out for yourself and see which one that you would prefer to take. And if you were not gonna go the Hellfire route, as you hadn't got one you can use yet, I would probably alternate out like Eye of Etlich or something like that to reduce some of the ranged damage that you'll take, because that's going to be the #1 killer for this build when running Rifts. Let's go over the gear quickly. You use Blade of Tribes. I rolled Vitality on this one for some testing, but I would ideally have cooldown there, and Max Fury. This one isn't a very optimal blade, but I got to work with what I got. But you want as much cooldown as possible. There's a high prioritization on cooldown for this build because it is a Wrath build. Anything that runs Wrath wants to be in Wrath as often as possible. So I also am wearing the 6-piece Earth set with, see, I have cooldown and Earthquake, Here I have some area damage. That's going to be your next stat priority. You want as much area damage as possible because you want to just get as many mobs in an area, earthquake, and then everything hit by Seismic Slam based on this belt, you know, increases earthquake damage by 80 to 100% for 3 seconds. So as you're leaping, and I will demonstrate this quickly before I end the video, you leap, you Seismic Slam everything that's in the earthquake, and it just does tons of damage. I have Ancient Parthenon Defenders, as I said before, for reducing damage because you are doing a focus restraint setup here and you don't have damage reduction. In the past on earthquake builds, you would take the damage reduction ring for earthquake, or for barbarians, which is the Band of Might, which reduced damage significantly. For this variation, I'm running Convention of the Elements, which means that when fire rolls around and you're in Wrath, it just melts packs. I mean, it does a really, really good job of pumping damage out on the fire rotation, but without that Band of Might, like I said, in non-optimal scenarios, you are going to leave game. You just get shit on. So for the armor option, it's Slut Socks. That's standard for earthquakes so that you can leave 3 times, and then I'm running Furnace to just increase damage to elites. For my legendary gems, I am using Esoteric for damage reduction, Bane of the Trapped, and Bane of the Stricken. As you see here, where I could get it, I've got area damage on this ring, area damage on my gloves. You can test things out and change this up because, like I said, when you're in Wrath, it's a lot harder to kill you and you do a ton of damage. So I would say in certain scenarios, maybe you want to get area damage on your weapon because that's going to be your highest possible area damage output, and then go cool down everywhere else that you can get it, because the more you're in Wrath, the more damage you do. So I'll just demonstrate this in town because, as I said earlier, it's kind of like a rotation. You know, earthquake is a rotation, so you can leap, shout, and then everything in Seismic Slam is going to take damage for 3 seconds. Then you can start leaping, earthquake, Seismic Slam, you know, and just rinse and repeat, you know, always keeping bloodshed up. And then when fire rolls around on this, or it's about to roll around, you're going to pop Wrath of Berserker and continue the rotation. What I've noticed from my setup right now, that I can get about, if I start right at fire, I can get 2 fire rotations before Wrath falls off, and then I'm kind of out for, you know, I don't know, 30 to 35 seconds with no Wrath. So I would ideally want more cooldown than I have currently. But that being said, I still was able to do an 85 fairly easily with this build. It took me about 10 attempts in the new riffs, or griffs on the PTR. Some of the griff changes that they've made are really, really good, and made it a little more balanced. Now, when I just want to quickly touch on optimal versus non-optimal settings. Range damage is hell for Earthquake Barb. Any of you that have never played Earthquake, you will experience that right away. If you're playing hardcore, there's no way, no how you should not be running Band of Might, because if you happen to fall into a greater rift that is Moon Clan, then you are going to die, or you're going to proc right away. Moon Clan, archers, things like that are really, really bad. If you can get mob types that are non-ranged, then you're going to do really, really well. So that is what you're going to be fishing for when doing greater rifts with this build. I will put a build guide on Diablo fans and link it in the description below. I'm going to keep this as short as I can, so if you have any questions or comments on this build, please leave them in the comments below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. I will be putting more stuff out for the PTR. I've got a couple more build guides that I'm working on currently. I do want to do a quick shout out to everybody that's supported the channel and all my followers and viewers on Twitch. I do stream on Twitch Monday through Friday. At twitch.tv/Dropadooski. Anytime that you see I'm live, stop in. You can ask my question, any questions you have there, rather than waiting for me to respond to a comment, or you can just sit around and bullshit with us. We like to have a good time. So thank you guys for watching, and good luck with the Earthquake Barb.